Hey guys, so recently I've just been doing a lot of thinking about what I want to do in life, my life trajectory, my life goals, because my boss basically said a lot of the things you have in mind, for example, how much money you want to make, where you want to live, your dream life, is basically wrong and founded on a lot of biases. So I just want to share some of those lessons with you because they've probably saved me like years of my life. And my boss was telling me that these are things that he talks to like 40-year-olds, 50-year-olds with, and they are also quite lost. But they've been lost for decades and they haven't actually found themselves because they haven't actually thought about these questions critically. And so they've kind of just gone through life on like AFK mode and they've just done what everyone else has told them to do, work a job, and just they've done that for decades and they finally look up and they realize, hang on, this isn't the direction that I actually wanted to go in. So here's what he shared with me. First is he told me to beware of the illusion of goals. And what I mean by that is when I told him that I wanted to do a lot of things to kind of prove my parents right or prove them that I went down the right path of not going to university, what he said was that's particularly dangerous because it doesn't matter if you're proving them right or you're proving them wrong. The fact that you're trying to prove something to them means that this isn't really a goal. This is an illusion of a goal deriving from other people taking control of your life. And if you think about this like realistically, you're essentially like I was essentially going to go down a pathway to try and make a point to my parents, even though I didn't want to go down this path. It was simply just to make a point to another person. And I thought it was constructive. I just basically I sought out all the evidence to support my own point, which in other words is something called confirmation bias, where you want to believe something and you find all the information in order to support you. So I wanted to prove my parents wrong that I went down the right path and I didn't have to go to university. And so I sought out all the information online about all these online gurus, how they talk about, not needing to go to uni. And I just looked at those sources, but I didn't think about it critically because I was just trying to appease my own sense of like, just comfort of knowing that I was right. But this conversation really made me realize that I can't just rely on what I believe to be true right now, because a lot of it is not what I actually believe. And oftentimes it's the result of either the influence from other people or the influence from society. So proving your parents wrong, that's just one example, but it can be extrapolated to the broader point, which is you don't want to do things for others. That's kind of like the takeaway point my boss or mentor was telling me. Because ultimately, if that's the case, you're never going to win. You're never going to win a life where your goal is just to appease other people. Now, appeasing people is one thing. Appeasing society is another issue. And this was the other issue he identified in me that raised a lot of red flags. So I mentioned the idea of becoming financially free. And he questioned this a lot because the idea of wealth is not something we think about that much until you're like an adult. Let's say you're 18, 20, you start thinking more and more about the idea of wealth. And so if you're quite young relative to that, it's going to be an area where you don't have fully mature like views on. Whereas let's say we're talking about other subjects like physical health or mental health or friendships. They're things we've been exposed to from a very, very young age. And so your goals regarding like physical health or friendships are usually quite accurate because you've had such a long-term exposure to them. For example, I want to live a life where I'm extremely physically active, where I'm like training Muay Thai like twice a day and just, living the athlete lifestyle. And since I've kind of been brought up with that, I have like 10, 15 years of that experience. That, for my boss at least, he was like, cool, yeah, that's a valid goal. I can see your track record for why you believe in that. But when it comes to wealth, he said, I only have been thinking about it for a few years, which is not a lot, especially when we consider that how you pursue wealth may consume your entire lifetime. Some people go to work for their entire life just to make money to make themselves happy. And so what he said was, first of all, the amount of money you think you need to make is often not the amount of money you actually need to make. And the exercise he got me to do was just picture yourself as already existing in your dream life. Just pretend you already had everything you wanted. You woke up and you did exactly what you wanted in your dream life, and someone paid for you and covered all your expenses. Would you do that? And if the answer is yes, that means that there's a way to construct your dream life without the idea of money. Now, with that being said, you obviously need money to construct it. But then he would ask, how much money do you actually need? And oftentimes, when he asked me over and over again, it doesn't come down to a lot of money. It can be as little as 20, 30K, 40K a year, which is not a lot. Now, I'm not saying that's my goal, but I'm saying if you genuinely just want to live a fulfilling life, which for me is just being able to like go to the gym, train every day, be around close friends, family, and just do stuff I feel fun, do work that I feel fun. I mean, I'm almost doing that right now. And so it's like you've already achieved a lot of the parts that would fulfill you. And extra money is not going to help you feel any more fulfilled. In fact, it just ends up being this never-ending cycle that you keep chasing down that never ends. Because the reason it never ends is because money is not something, it's not a game you can win. It's a game created by society or a capitalist society to make you constantly on this treadmill of pursuing more. Now, again, I'm not saying making money is bad. I don't have like an anti-capitalist view. I think making money is great, and there's certain things that it can buy. It can definitely buy a degree of happiness. It can buy you just better like life experience, better equipment, better, let's say, health outcomes, better just general opportunities as a whole. And if you have other opportunities that you're looking for in terms of, like, for myself, it's kind of like I feel like I have a responsibility to retire my parents. And so having money is definitely a stable like anchor there. But his point that my boss was trying to convey to me was that amount of money that you think you need is not as much as you may think. And if you actually calculate it to a tangible level, it's not like you need to become a multi-millionaire in order to achieve that. You can achieve it even just as simply as being an employee at a company. And that's why, when people shit on like 9-to-5 jobs, it's not entirely accurate. And I was initially biased by that point of view in the first place. But I realized it's, again, the reason I was biased because I was just looking at all these social media influencers who are just making like 10K a month on these online businesses and just living in Bali, just chilling. And so I was influenced by these Bali entrepreneurs and thinking that if I just make, a lot of money, then my life will be happy. But I realized that even if I do that, it keeps coming down to the core things that bring me happiness, which I already mentioned, like health, relationships. And they're things I already have now. So if I wanted to live that life, I'm technically already partly in it. And so when it comes to money, it's not something I have to actively pursue. I should pursue things that I find enjoying, find fulfilling. And then money is just a byproduct of that. And especially in this day and age with social media, you can monetize almost any single skill. So if you just do a skill that you genuinely find interesting and fun, and you use that to make money, isn't that the best experience? So this conversation I know has touched on many things, but again, it's the idea that you need to be clear on the goals that you set yourself. Are they actual real goals that you have? Or are they illusion of goals that are set by other people in society or set by society itself? And if that's the case, you've got to be extremely careful because you don't want to follow these goals and look up 50 years down the line realizing that the thing you were chasing was very far from what you intended to do in the first place. With that, take care and I'll see you next time.